Failure did not arrive in my life like a sudden storm. It came quietly, step by step, disguised as small mistakes I chose to ignore. At first, I believed failure was something that happened to other people, those who lacked talent, discipline, or luck. I was convinced that hard work alone guaranteed success. I was wrong. My name did not matter then, and it does not matter now. What mattered was the dream I carried. From a young age, I wanted more than an ordinary life. I wanted recognition, stability, and the pride of knowing I had built something meaningful with my own hands. While others were content with routine, I chased ambition relentlessly. Or at least, I believed I did. After finishing my education, I stepped into the world with confidence bordering on arrogance. I thought I was prepared. I had plans, timelines, and expectations. Success, I believed, was just a matter of time. I started my first job full of energy, promising myself that within a few years I would be ahead of everyone else. Reality had different plans. The first signs of failure appeared subtly. I missed small deadlines. I avoided asking for help because I didn't want to appear weak. When feedback came, I dismissed it, convincing myself that others simply didn't understand my potential. I worked hard, yes, but not smart. I moved fast, but without direction. Then came the first real blow. A project I was leading collapsed. Not because of a lack of effort, but because of poor decisions, my decisions. I failed to communicate clearly. I failed to listen. When the responsibility was placed on my shoulders, I felt exposed. The disappointment in my manager's eyes hurt more than any words could. I told myself it was just bad luck. Instead of learning, I defended my ego. I blamed circumstances, coworkers, timing, anything except myself. And because I refused to learn, failure returned. Months later, I lost that job. Walking home that day felt like walking through silence. The noise of the city seemed distant, as if the world had muted itself to let me hear my own thoughts. Shame settled in my chest. I avoided friends. I avoided mirrors. I avoided questions I wasn't ready to answer. At home, the walls felt closer. Every night, I replayed my mistakes, not to learn from them, but to punish myself. I wondered how confidence could vanish so quickly. I wondered how someone so sure of success could fall so hard. For the first time, I questioned my worth. The months that followed were the hardest of my life. Rejection became routine. Applications went unanswered. Interviews ended with polite smiles and empty promises. Each, "We'll get back to you," felt heavier than the last. Money grew tight. Pride grew thinner. There were nights when I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, asking myself if my dreams had been foolish from the start. Maybe I wasn't meant for more. Maybe failure was my natural state. That was the moment failure stopped being an enemy and began to change its role. One evening, while cleaning old papers, I found a notebook I had used years ago. It was filled with goals written confidently in bold handwriting. I read them slowly. What shocked me was not how ambitious they were, but how little effort I had put into understanding the person needed to achieve them. I realized something painful and powerful. I had been chasing success without building character. I wanted results without growth. I wanted applause without discipline. Failure hadn't come to destroy me. It had come to expose me. That night, I decided to stop running from it. Instead of asking, "Why did this happen to me?" I asked, "What is this trying to teach me?" It was a small shift in thinking, but it changed everything. I began by being honest with myself. Painfully honest. I listed my weaknesses without excuses: poor communication, impatience, fear of criticism, inconsistency. The list was long, but for the first time, it felt liberating. I started rebuilding from the inside. Every morning, I woke up earlier, not because motivation suddenly appeared, but because discipline does not wait for motivation. I read books I once ignored. I listened more than I spoke. I practiced skills instead of just talking about potential. I learned to accept feedback without defense. Each correction became a tool instead of an insult. Slowly, I noticed something changing, not in my circumstances, but in me. Failure had humbled me, and in humility, I found clarity. I took small jobs others overlooked. Work that didn't impress anyone but taught me everything. I learned patience from repetition, responsibility from accountability, confidence from consistency. There were setbacks, of course. Progress was not dramatic. No one applauded my quiet efforts. But something inside me grew stronger, something that could not be shaken by temporary defeat. Months later, opportunity returned, not as a reward, but as a test. I was offered a chance to lead a small project. Nothing glamorous, but this time, I approached it differently. I planned carefully. I listened. I asked questions. I admitted when I didn't know something. I worked with people, not above them. The project succeeded, not because I had become extraordinary overnight, but because I had learned from being broken. That success did not make me proud. It made me grateful. Looking back, I realized that my greatest lessons were never taught by achievement. They were taught by loss, rejection, and silence. Failure forced me to confront truths I would have ignored otherwise. It taught me that talent without discipline is wasted, that confidence without humility is dangerous, that dreams without patience collapse under pressure. Most importantly, failure taught me resilience. Today, when things go wrong, I don't panic the way I used to. I pause, I reflect, I adapt. I understand now that failure is not the opposite of success, it is part of it. I no longer fear falling. I fear refusing to learn. If someone had asked me years ago what my greatest teacher would be, I would have named a mentor, a book, or an experience of success. I never would have chosen failure. But now, I know better. Failure stripped me of illusion and replaced it with wisdom. It slowed me down when I needed direction. It humbled me when I needed growth. It broke me only so I could rebuild stronger. And that is the truth few people tell you. Failure does not come to end your story. It comes to rewrite it, if you are brave enough to read between the lines. When failure became the teacher, success finally became the student.